Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Casey Murphy, and I'm ACT's Director of Program and Events. I want to thank you for joining us today for ACT's April webinar entitled Switching Gears, Making Your Bike to Work Campaigns Virtual. Before we hear from our presenters this afternoon, I wanted to quickly take care of a few housekeeping items. First, all attendees are on mute during this webinar. If you have a question or have a problem hearing us, please type it in the chat box located in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. I will do my best to answer your questions as quickly as possible. Second, we will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar, but please feel free to type in your questions as we go in the Q&A box located in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Please note, when asking a question, please also identify who the question is for when putting it in. Finally, this session is being recorded and we'll have the recording up on the ACT website within 24 hours after the presentation ends. Now I'd like to go ahead and introduce David Strauss, ACT's Executive Director, to give an update on what ACT is currently working on. David?
Excellent. Thank you, Casey. Good afternoon, everyone. We've got an important topic today, so I'll try and keep my updates short to give as much time as possible to our speakers and to allow for Q&A at the end. As the premier association for TDM professionals, our goal is to build a strong community of individuals and organizations working to advance and implement TDM at their work sites and within their communities. ACT is your organization for the latest information and best practices in TDM. During these challenging and unprecedented times, it's been wonderful to see our members coming together online and via email to talk through ideas and share thoughts with each other. If you're not yet a member, I invite you to join your colleagues and become a part of our community. ACT membership, while always a fabulous investment in your professional development, is proving invaluable during the current coronavirus outbreak. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to update everyone on some of the happenings at ACT. ACT's Emerging Mobility Virtual Summit is quickly approaching and will be held on the afternoon of April 28th. The event will feature many of the panels and issues that were to have been presented at our in-person event in Pittsburgh. Registration is open and it's free for all ACT members, and we hope that you will be able to participate. You can register on our website at actweb.org. As of right now, we are moving forward with our international conference in Denver, August 2nd to 5th. We, of course, are continuing to monitor the current situation and will make any necessary changes to the program in that event as deemed necessary. We recently just closed award nominations and we'll be soon posting more of the program information on the website. We just announced our second keynote speaker last week. Lastly, I want to remind everyone about ACT's More Through TDM legislation. As you may have heard on our public policy call last week with Chairman DeFazio and Representative David Price, we're hoping to see greater support of TDM in the next Federal Transportation Authorization Bill. And increasing support of ACT's More Through TDM legislation is the way for us to start at that. I encourage you all to learn more about the legislation on our website and to reach out to your local congressional delegation to seek their co-sponsorship of this important bill. Now on to today's webinar, Switching Gears, Making Your Bike to Work Campaigns Virtual. Bike Week is one of our industry's main events. Typically, it kicks off a summer of promotions to get people out of their cars and trying new modes. And now, we're all working from home. So today we'll be joined by representatives from Bikes Make Life Better, the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, and Love to Ride to hear how you can virtually engage your participants during this unique time. We'll hear about educational activities, campaigns, challenges, incentives, and other strategies for getting and keeping folks engaged and building a better community. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers. Sabrina Bradbury manages the Transportation Demand Management Program at the Sacramento Area Council of Governments and has over 10 years of experience encouraging travel behavior change. She led the update of the TDM strategic plan to move the program towards a focus on performance measurement and innovation. Under her leadership, the TDM team launched new TDM grant programs that fund innovative and cost-effective ways to reduce car trips in the Sacramento region. She also manages the regional bike share project, coordinating the work of the project partners to ensure the system is a reliable and equitable transportation option. We'll also have Thomas Stokell, who is the CEO of Love to Ride, the online platform that gets more people biking. Thomas has been running online biking encouragement and TDM behavior change programs for 12 years. Love to Ride has engaged more than 500,000 people, 22,000 companies, and 140,000 new riders in their programs. To kick us off, we have Anna Walters, a bike consultant and events and communications manager with Bikes Make Life Better, who's been there for the past 4 years. The focus of her work is to develop bike culture and communities within large and fast-growing companies. She has designed and implemented bike-friendly business plans for LinkedIn, Stanford University, Stanford Research Park, Walton Family Foundation, and Walmart. She has expertise in research analysis and writing about bike trends and best practices, particularly in the corporate space. Prior to joining Bikes Make Life Better, Anna was transportation specialist at Google, planning and managing their comprehensive alternative transportation program, including one of the best bike programs in the country. Anna lives in San Francisco, car-free, using her bike and public transit to travel throughout the Bay Area, and knows firsthand what it takes to get employees out of their cars and onto bikes. Anna, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. That was such a sweet intro. Hi, everyone. We're here to talk about bike love in the time of COVID-19. So just to get started, oops, I'll do this. Okay, so right now we're all adjusting to all kinds of things. We're adjusting to restrictions on our movement, a situation that's ever changing, and implications of a pretty scary pandemic. So we're all looking for things we can do to cope and make us happy and grateful during this time. So on my screen right now is one of the first Zoom meetings our program coordinators at Facebook had when shelter in place was first implemented in the Bay Area. And they all decided it would just be fun to don bike kits and sort of, you know, make something fun out of what was kind of an interesting time. So I don't know, I just loved that approach. And this is kind of the approach we're trying to take with moving a lot of our content and programming virtually. So this presentation is going to cover how we can take these circumstances and actually have them aid us in getting more people to ride bikes right now. And then also when we get back to the office, hopefully sooner rather than later. We'll cover some reasons why this is the best time to try biking now more than ever, a framework for marketing during the time of COVID-19, and then practical ideas for taking your bike campaigns, especially Bike Month and Bike Day, into the virtual space. So with that, we'll continue. All right, so why bike now? There's so many reasons why biking is really one of the best things to do right now, and it's one of the best times to get your messages around biking out there. First is disruption of routine. So we know from research that when a person's habits are in flux, that's the best time to change behavior. So that can be when someone starts a new job or buys a new house and moves to a new neighborhood, or as it turns out during a global pandemic, our routines are totally upended. So people are going to be better at changing their habits now more than ever. The second thing is a captive audience. So right now, people are staring at their screens. You all are here right now at this webinar, maybe more so than usual. Attendance was pretty high. And that's because we are all sheltered in place. We're all you know, looking for content and ways to engage virtually. So it's really the perfect time. Also biking right now, I like to call it the new going out. So biking is one of the only options we have for physical activity, exercise, to get out in nature, to get away from the rugrats or the roommates if you need a break. So on my screen, I have a picture of my Instagram. Don't make fun of how many people liked it, but that's my bike, and I took her out for a ride and then went to see the cars trickle through 85. I'm actually in San Jose right now. And I called it my new bar. So if you need me, I'll be at the bar. Also right now we have increased road safety. So there are fewer cars on the road than there ever have been, possibly since the advent of the automobile vehicle. I'm exaggerating, but you know, other things related to that are we have increased bike infrastructure and temporary bike infrastructure. So not only are there no cars on the road or fewer cars on the road, we also have cities that are putting in temporary bike lanes, spaces for bikes and pedestrians. In my area, Oakland just put in 74 miles of bike lanes, which is about 10% of their road surface area, which is just incredible. I know Minneapolis put in 18 miles, and just all across the country and the world, we're seeing spaces pop up. So it really is a time for those people that are, you know, a little gun shy about biking in traffic to get out there and try it. And the last thing is bikes are replacing transit. And this makes me very sad as a transportation wonk. I love taking transit as well as biking. But we're seeing, you know, levels of transportation in the US about 70% below what pre-COVID levels were right now. And that's just the unfortunate reality. So really bikes are a great solution to push right now. This is the time for bike messaging. Okay, so we're gonna give you a framework for how to market during COVID-19. And full disclosure, we stole this from the Behavioral Insights team at Alta Planning. Shout out to you guys, you're awesome. So this is a framework we use when we're developing any kind of campaign, but during COVID-19, we really wanna try and move people through this progression below. So the first is dust off your bike. A lot of people have their bikes, you know, sitting in a corner in their garage. They're probably going to need some love. Or, you know, you just need to like think about what it would take to bike again. Like what kinds of things do you need? Try and like answer all those questions for your users. The second thing is to actually go on a ride. So this is the inaugural ride. We want people to feel good about getting out there and getting back on a bike. The third phase is make it a habit. So we want people, once they go on that first ride, to keep doing it. And then the third phase that we want to move through, our fourth phase that we want to move people through is riding to the office when it reopens. So not only do we want people to ride now when circumstances are primed for this, but we want them to actually ride to work once we're back at work. All right, so the first phase, dust off your bike. We have kind of an expanded audience for this phase right now. Usually as bike professionals or transportation professionals, we're targeting those interested but concerned group. So people that have hangups, but are generally like down to try the thing. Right now, we can also target people who are used to be strong and fearless or confident cyclists, but because of circumstances, you know, maybe they had kids and needed to take them to school, or for whatever reason, life prevented them from riding. We can hit them as well at this time. So that's pretty cool. Oh, hold on. We also want to try and use segmentation if possible. Okay, sorry. We also want to try and use segmentation if possible. So making sure that you hit people who are living in the same area or maybe work at the same location. We really like to target people who who live within 5 or so miles of their workplace. So if you can like get access to HR data and target people with messages about biking now, that will help you later when you try and move them to ride to the office in the end. Oops. Reason my slides won't advance. Okay, so here's some practical ideas. First, our educational videos. At Bikes Make Life Better, we started a YouTube channel that was dedicated to the dust off your bike phase. So everything from like ABC quick checks to maybe how you can plan a route to like introducing people to their bike, reacquainting them with their bike again. Other educational videos we like are smart cycling videos. The League of American Bicyclists puts those out. And it's great because this content can just live on the internet and people can access it whenever they want. The next is one-on-one video consultations. So at our clients, we're doing a lot of these actually. People have questions, they need help with their bikes. We actually have like a mechanic or a bike program coordinator get on a video call and help someone set up an indoor trainer. Or we had someone up in Seattle, a mechanic, fully build a mountain bike virtually with someone, which was pretty cool. So these are really time intensive and resource intensive, but really high reward. So if you can do this and you have the resources, we recommend doing them. The next is live demos, classes, and Q&As. So I think Tim Potter started a trend with a Facebook live demo, which was really cool. I wonder if I can make this stop. I don't think I can, sorry guys. That's a really great way to engage people in a live way. We've been running some of our regular classes virtually. So we run classes at our clients around Bike Commuting 101 and Fix a Flat. And we've actually had really good virtual attendance for those classes. There's quite an appetite right now for that content. Another thing is to run Q&As. So we have a bike champions group at one of our clients, and in a couple of weeks, we're all getting together and inviting employees at that workplace to come to us, bring us their questions, and we can help them as a group collectively, which also helps build community. Next, just a quick reminder that mobile bike repair is an option if you have those like tricky things that you can't actually fix virtually. Definitely recommend a mobile bike vendor. In the Bay Area, we use VeloFix, but I know they're national and they are making house calls. Additionally, shops are still open, so you might want to check your local area shops just to make sure, but you can always send people to the bike shop because they are essential services during this time. The other thing we've been doing a lot of is special newsletters. So great time to push out content. We're getting a lot of traction and hits on things like how to bike during this time, during the time of COVID-19 and stay safe. A lot of like indoor trainer setup, like I mentioned, and just basic bike stuff to help people ride. The other last thing I'll mention is it's maybe a good idea to push other kinds of bike media. So sometimes the gateway to biking isn't actually biking at all, it's something else. We really like bike documentaries that Bikes Make Life Better. Our favorite right now is called Motherload. It's about the cargo bike revolution. It's very inspiring. It's on Vimeo for $7 right now. So just finding little things like that where you can plug biking or sort of nudge people in that direction. I have some resources for you. You can have this presentation after, or I can send you these resources, but these are just videos and things that can help get you started with dusting off your bike. Okay, the second phase is to go for a ride. And there's not a lot we can do here, especially when we're all sheltered in place, but just to try and ensure that people have a good experience. So whether that's answering all their questions ahead of time, or just like having them report back and then building them up afterwards. I have a then and a now picture. I definitely missed the then. So the next phase is to make it a habit. And developing a habit actually takes quite a bit of time. It's about 2 months before a behavior becomes automatic. Right now, we almost have that time, which is pretty incredible. So it's really a great time to start biking and actually form that habit. If you can keep, if you can provide incentives for riders, that's also very helpful. So if you have the resources and can somehow reward, especially new riders who have never done it before, that can also help with the habit formation. Okay, some practical ideas for this one. The first is we actually ask people to test ride their commute to work before they do it. So during this time is a great time to promote those kind of messages. Usually we have people start with Google Maps, see how they feel. We'll give them some kind of one-on-one consultation if we can. And that just helps them build confidence and get familiar with the turns of the route. We also want to try and promote solo challenges. So the League of American Bicyclists says that May is still Bike Month, and we agree. It's just refocusing from the to work to there, wherever there may be. So there's still a lot you can do with a virtual Bike Month in May. Usually you have a platform, Love to Ride. We'll hear from Thomas next about that, so I won't steal his thunder. But whatever platform you use to run your May Bike Month event, you can still use that. We have a great challenge going on in the Bay Area right now by the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition. They're doing a social media challenge where you take a ride, you take a photo, put it on social media, and then you're entered to win a prize. I've actually been doing that, and that's been pretty cool. So there's lots of like easy ways you can create challenges. You don't even need a platform. The next thing is to make it an adventure or mission. This is my favorite thing. I like doing going to weird places. So if you can pair biking with some other kind of location, adventure, or mission, I think that sometimes can gain a lot of traction. Some ideas for that are check out Atlas Obscura for your area. This is just usually outdoor kind of weird roadside attractions of your area. And in my area, I haven't actually been to this one yet, but the photos on the slide are of a miniature post office in Tilden Park that I want to try and find. Another is the City Nature Challenge. So this is where amateur naturalists get together and document the species around them via photographs that they upload to a tool. There's actually a huge push in the end of April to do this, and you can do it virtually. I mean, you can do it safely solo and then virtually interact with that community, so that's pretty cool. I've also recommended geocaching. Geocaching is just searching for hidden treasures that are hidden by other geocachers using GPS coordinates. Haven't done that in a while, but that could be really fun. And then the other thing to do is maybe create like a bingo card or something that has like a challenge a day in May. Or because I grew up Catholic, I always like the idea of an Advent calendar for May, where you open a door and have like some kind of bike challenge or factoid or something fun about biking. The next thing is rides with kids. Any rides with kids to fun destinations that are safe is a great idea right now. People are looking for basically programs for children right now. There's great guides out there, and I have some resources on the next slide. And then the other is to offer advanced education. So things like people at this phase might be wanting to know how to ride in the rain, or how to be a better urban rider, or what kind of gear, or like how does Strava work? You know, how can I track my rides? So offering that kind of content virtually could be really helpful in this phase. Okay, there's some resources. Okay, and the final phase is bike back to work. And really this is going to be different depending on your, who you are, what organization you are, and what your special circumstances are. But just a few things to keep in mind is, yeah, we really want people that took up biking during the pandemic to stick with it when they're back at work. Usually we're going to probably have to incorporate some social distancing measures. That's just the reality. So we have to try and think about that. We can play up the weather. If the ban is lifted in the next 2 months, it's summertime, it's a great time to bike. So that will help us. And then we also should plan for employees to issue public transit carpools and van pools at this time. That's an unfortunate reality. We might not even be able to run full capacity buses or shuttles due to social distancing, and people might not feel safe taking those modes. So bikes really are a great, fully contained unit to get to work. Some practical ideas for bike back to work. Again, this is going to be really specific for your organization, but we've been hearing from a lot of our constituents that they really want a celebration when they get back to work. That might be a little hard to pull off just because social distancing will probably still be in place in some way, but if you can find some way to actually make it a big day when people bike back to work, that would be cool. We also want to focus on accommodating cyclists once they're there. So this is really just taking stock of what things you have to support your cyclists and increasing them or changing them based on the circumstances. So maybe looking at your bike policies and including bringing bikes to your desk as part of that policy. Looking at your parking and adding more temporary bike racks if you need. Looking at your end of trip facilities and making sure that you have cubbies and spaces for people to put things. I don't know if maybe offering like masks or gloves, you really should try and think through all the scenarios when people are back at work and how to support them. And then you can always reach out to us if you have questions. We are here to help. And here's some resources for bike back to work. All right, thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. That was really wonderful, and the tips were fantastic too. Really appreciate that. And again, these are going to be up on our website after, and the session is fully recorded. And before I just introduce Thomas real quickly, I want to let all of you know to please make sure if you do have a question to type in your question as we go, and please make sure you designate who the question is for. Now, without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Thomas Stokell. He is the CEO of Love to Ride. Thomas, take it away.
Thank you, Casey. Well, good afternoon or good morning, everybody. Today we're here to talk about encouraging riding in the coronavirus era. And I'm going to share with you, firstly, some how we're basically adapting to the new situation that we find ourselves in. And of course, some tips and recommendations for online programming. As David mentioned, with the online platform that gets more people riding bikes. And that's enough of that. So messaging and tone. So I'm not sure how many of you or how many emails each of you has received over the last 5 weeks that start off with something like, in light of COVID-19 or due to the ongoing coronavirus lockdown. I'm trying to estimate, and I think it's probably like 50 or 60 emails that I've received that start off with something like that. So my inclination, and now when I read them, I kind of switch off a little bit. And so that's just, we're avoiding naming that in that way. And at the same time, it's important that we acknowledge that we do live in a very different time and that things are different. So we still need to find a way of acknowledging what's going on at the moment. And in terms of our messaging, because I don't know about you all, but when it first started, I'd get emails from people that didn't acknowledge it at all. And I'm not sure if it was like a scheduled sales email that was scheduled to go out to me prior to this whole thing going down, but it didn't resonate with me at all. So in terms of how we're doing this at Love to Ride, you can see the start of this email here. With everything that's been happening, we wanted to give you something healthy, positive, and fun. So we didn't say, given coronavirus lockdown, yada, yada, yada. We're talking in this way about it at this moment in time. The other thing that we're doing is focusing on the positive. And so you'll see here for our Bike Month program, as part of the National Challenge, to run a goal setting program, basically. So people can set goals for themselves, and they can set goals for their company, and work towards it. Any company, any person can take part in this. It's completely free across the whole country for May. And so it's a positive, fun thing. We used to, in May, run a competition, a workplace competition, where it's a fun competition between companies. And we decided as part of our adaptation that we were going to postpone that and combine it with our global bike challenge in September, Cycle September, and run that sort of competition there. It didn't feel right at this time to get people going head to head, and that was the focus. We wanted to have something positive and supportive where we're sort of coming together more. I was thinking about this before this call, and some of you may have seen the film Independence Day. Features some aliens coming to the planet and the whole world coming together to fight the aliens. They weren't competing to see who could get the most aliens killed. They were working together for a common cause. So that's what we want to do here. We want to give something positive and fun for companies, something positive and fun for individuals. Clubs and groups can also set goals. So focusing on the positive. And the other point around messaging is focusing on the intrinsic value, the intrinsic benefits of biking, which I'll talk more about now. So incentives, obviously a lot of us in TDM utilize incentives as a part of our program. At this moment in time for us, we're not like leading with the incentives. We're kind of toning back the whole win this, get this, for a lot of reasons, but we're basically due to this focusing on the intrinsic benefit. There are so many reasons to get out and ride right now, from being good for your physical health, your mental health. I think a lot of us are experiencing personally and seeing around us the mental health toll that being the uncertainty, the anxiety, being at home, the pressure, the extra stress. And for anyone who's been for a bike ride recently, I went for a ride at lunchtime in the sunshine, and just, yeah, it's a world of good. It's a great way to get outside, get some fresh air. It's a great way to get from A to B while social distancing. So as a mode of transportation right now, it obviously makes a lot of sense, as we've all discovered. We wrote an article recently called Why Biking Makes Sense. And we recently launched this new site called Biking in the Coronavirus Era. And we have all these articles on here. And I'm showing you this because I want you all to steal the content on here and use it however you see fit. So we've got these tips here. Ride a bike, the original social distancing vehicle. Something from 1918, it seems. And then, yeah, mental health. So just take all this text. We all know how great it feels to finally get outside after being stuck in the house all day. This type of language, take it, use it. We invite you to run with it. Lots of other good content on this site as well. Back to my presentation. Here we go. So see that article, and the incentives for us at this moment in time are sort of the icing on the cake as opposed to the cake. That might change in another month's time. Life might feel more normal again, and it might not be so jarring to have more of a focus back on incentives. But there are so many reasons, as Anna really, really well put, so many good reasons to ride right now. Creating new social norms is really important. There are, I'm sure we've all heard and seen, people are riding bikes more often right now. There are things like bike lanes being put in temporarily. I'm seeing on my street, people riding with their kids. And so basically we have an opportunity to tell that story a bit more widely and cement it as a narrative in our culture. And it's really important to get that message out there. I think if you've done any reading or research into like the power of narratives and stories that we tell as a culture and tell ourselves, stories are very, very powerful. So gather stories, get photos, share these on social media, share them in your email, your blogs, your website, talking about what's happening at the moment. Of course, on Love to Ride, we have a little feature which allows people to write stories and share stories. So we've added a new topic when you write a story called Biking in the Coronavirus Era. And I'll just show you an important thing on here, which is, hang on a second. Yeah, so all these stories that we're getting out at the moment, which is awesome. And I wanted to show one that's actually from a little while ago, but it's the kind of story we need right now, which is, it really wasn't that hard. And you can see here, someone basically who hadn't ridden a bike, but rode for the first time at 58. And of course, they got 17 high fives and some good comments in there. And that leads on to my next point about creating community. Humans naturally want to connect with each other. And you might say now more than ever, we want to connect with friends and colleagues. There are lots of ways to achieve this, and Anna already mentioned many of them: social media, the emails and comms that you send out, and the various platforms that are out and available. And we have this photo gallery, of course, on Love to Ride, and you can comment and all that kind of good jazz. Another key point is helping people to overcome barriers. It's all about the barriers. If we could bribe our way to get people to change their behavior in a significant way that really worked, then we would have figured it out, and we would just be bribing people to stop smoking and to ride their bikes and not drive alone. But there are obviously barriers, both real barriers and perceived barriers, that prevent people from riding bikes. So it's about identifying those barriers and giving people information, advice, and guidance. But it goes beyond that, obviously. And I think Anna did a good job of mentioning many of those already. So targeting the right message at the right person. On Love to Ride, when you register, we do a little survey and we ask how often you ride. We ask the new riders what barriers they face. We ask the more regular riders if they're riding to work, and ask them what barriers they face to riding to work, so we can then target through email and the content on the site the right message at the right person at the right time. Videos that Anna already mentioned, very powerful, quick ways of, there's a reason that advertising on video and on TV has been so successful, is because it really does work. I would just invite you to share short videos, because the temperament of people in 2020 seems to be short and sweet with video works. Then of course there are other things. Not confident? We've got a great virtual training for you. Need a bike? Here's a link to your local bike shops. I want to show you this quickly first. We obviously have a local bike shop map that you can change location to find a local bike shop, but there's a hack, and I'll actually show you the hack. So if you wanted to send an email out to say newer riders, just go to Google, put in bike shops near me. It'll give you this URL here, and you can just, you can see the code here, bike plus shops near me. After the me, just delete that last bit and copy that link. And then you can put that in an email, like, click here to find your bike shops, and it will take them to, Google does the magic. Hey, here's a local bike shop page they can check out and find local bike shops. On the Ride Healthy site, once again, we've got this page for new to riding, and got a bunch of digestible information here that people can do. So the 4 steps to getting riding, bike need fixing up, lots of videos there. And then don't own a bike yet, tips on buying a bike, find your local bike rental, find your local bike shop. So yeah, lots of good stuff there as well. Again, back here. And I wanted to just look at this behavior change framework again, because Anna's already mentioned that there are stages of change that people go through, as we all know, and getting people to, there are people out in the world who they want to get to this stage, and there are people out there who need to start forming that habit and riding occasionally to riding more regularly, and then eventually riding to work over time. So just wrapping up how the kinds of things that we're doing at Love to Ride. Obviously it's online. The messaging is that we already mentioned, keep it positive, keep it fun. We've switched up our monthly focus, as I mentioned. So April, it's about supporting people to ride. May, we've got our positive set a goal bike month challenge, get outside and ride. June, we're going to have a focus on stories. Obviously, we're going to be mentioning stories, but we're going to have a bigger focus in both in publishing the stories we've got to date, and of course, sharing the stories, encouraging more people to share their story. Hashtag bike there in July. In August and September, September's our global bike challenge. So August is about getting ready for that campaign. And Biketober's our workplace challenge again, but for the southern cities like here in Atlanta, Georgia, where it's a little warm still in September. Warm is probably an understatement. And so you can see here, this is the campaign we run with our partners and clients. So we obviously provide them with the various tools to run those monthly campaigns. So they have the tools they need to push them out to their businesses and employees in their area. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that we're exploring a program at the moment of support for our clients and partners on how to talk about biking in this time. It's obviously changing. There's obviously some nuance here. We're all trying to figure this out. We're figuring it out and just want to share, like, hey, here's May's, here's some example press releases, like the content we've already written on ridehealthy.com, that new site I showed y'all. So we're exploring this idea at the moment. So if that would be useful to you, we're curious to see if it would be worthwhile producing these monthly packs of email templates and articles and, you know, stories and all that kind of good stuff. And then, of course, we've got a program called Ride 365. So this work does continue all year round for us at Love to Ride. And Anna mentioned this. She likes an advent calendar. So I quickly grabbed one from our Winter Wheelers campaign, which is a program we run the lead up to Christmas, where every day we give away a prize for people who ride on that day. And the last thought I wanted to make was about the little bubble that we find ourselves in the transportation space, the sustainability space, the biking space. There's obviously lots of positive news and possibility of great changes, more people riding. The cars aren't on the street so much, so it's safer to ride at this time, more space for bikes, making these temporary bike lanes with that space, cleaner air, all the good stuff. But after this lockdown ends, there will be a slower rollback for sure, but it could go a couple of ways. And I'm an optimistic guy, but I'm more than a little bit concerned that with less people taking transit, I think certainly the short, medium, and it's hard, obviously really hard to say, but I think transit will see a decline for possibly some time. And if I feel scared about using transit because I'm worried about catching something, then the safest option for a lot of people is to use a car. Now, they might not own a car and they might need another way, but for a lot of people, they do have a car and they might just end up driving more. And that's a real concern, because then all that space that we had, all those temporary bike lanes we had, they all now, we need that space back for the cars, because now more people are driving. So it's a call to arms for all of us. We need, I think, it's obviously a combination of all these things. The teleworking, as we can all see on the streets, has been the most significant contributor, because so many people are managing to work from home. And if we could keep teleworking at 20 to 40%, so 1 to 2 days a week, people were now working from home as standard. And we might see, in terms of the rollback to work, that companies might suggest that. And I would recommend, if you're working with a company, that you encourage them as much as you can to keep a level of teleworking at a decent rate. And obviously biking, carpool, those things will help make up for this less transit. And that's all I wanted to say today. So I hope that was useful. Let us know if you've got any questions. Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. That was great. Nice follow-up to Anna as well there. Truly appreciate it. I think some good tips there as well. Once again, just want to remind folks, I see some questions have come in. If you do have questions, feel free to type them in as you go. And just please also specify who the question is for, or if it's all for all three, just let us know. Now, just like to, without further ado, go ahead and introduce Sabrina Bradbury, Senior Analyst at Sacramento Area Council of Governments, kind of give us an update on what they're working on with their virtual bike challenge. Sabrina? You're on mute, sorry.
Yeah, I just saw that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, go ahead.
All right, great. Thank you so much. And I think we're very much in alignment with what Anna and Thomas are doing, but I'll get into a little more specifics of what we're doing for the Sacramento Region's May's Bike Month campaign. As you all know, that it's a regional campaign to promote bicycling as a mode of transportation to reduce traffic congestion and improve air quality, but this May is unlike any other May that we've seen. And so we're really focusing on public health guidance and safety for our community, and that's our top priority this year. So we want to encourage people to bicycle, but only if they can do so safely, and really promoting the solo ride piece of this. I'll give an overview of how we're making our campaign virtual this year and our key messages that we're going to communicate, and the social media tools and strategies that we'll use to communicate those messages. So first step in hosting a completely virtual campaign is no in-person events. And this is a big change for us because we typically do have outreach partners who host a variety of events, and we get all of that information onto our calendar. So it feels very much like May is Bike Month as a whole campaign is hosting all of these events. But instead, we're going to encourage people to check out our social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, to provide participants opportunities to engage online with one another. And we communicated this out to our outreach partners in middle of March, and we received nothing but agreement and support for this direction focused on public health, because that really is one of the pillars of May is Bike Month. So we've made some updates to our website to improve the e-badge achievement displays, as well as the leaderboards. And as Thomas mentioned, we're not really focusing so much on the competition piece, but for those who are interested in it, we will have top individual employers and teams displayed there where they can see them easily. And starting April 22nd, next week, we're going to be sending out emails to our SAC Region 501 database that's linked to the May is Bike Month database to encourage people to check out our virtual campaign online, let them have a little sneak peek at what's coming. We've already begun some early messaging on social media, and participants are already getting excited and gearing up for Bike Month. So on our key messages, as I mentioned, we're really focusing on this solo ride, riding alone, not a heavy focus on the car trip reduction, because as we know, people are mostly at home and only supposed to be making essential trips. And so we won't be talking about commuting to work, but really just promoting how bicycling can be fun, a great way to enjoy fresh air, get outdoors, and feel mentally refreshed. And then tips on how they can get outside safely and practice social distancing for their bike rides. And then finally, just to touch on the strategies that we're going to use, the piece I'm most excited to share with all of you today is creating new e-badges that people can earn through the website itself. Like, I took a solo ride, maybe they just log a trip and then we give them a badge and assume that's a solo ride. Or they log 10 trips and we give them a 10 solo rides logged badge. But we're also going to create some merit badges that people could share on social media that couldn't necessarily be integrated with the website, but might be a fun way for people to interact and share what they're doing. And you might notice that there is a merit badge with a stationary bike on it. So new this year, we are allowing folks, encouraging them even, to log their stationary bike miles. And we are keenly aware that this contradicts the idea of bicycling as a mode of transportation. But we think that it not only supports the stay-at-home orders, but we see it as a potential for behavior change in developing those riders, in capturing them with some of our messaging that they might transition in the near future to using bicycling as a mode of transportation. Oops. So we'll also be putting together a virtual kickoff event. So we typically hold a kickoff event on May 1st every year. And since we can't do that in person, we still want to offer folks some way to engage with us online. So we're looking into having a Facebook or Instagram live of the DJ that we normally would have had at the event, and then follow that with some videos from local bike shops on bike maintenance tips, and potentially hear from some of our active riders, post some videos about them and how they're adapting their rides during this time of social distancing. We're also developing theme weeks, for example, a school spirit week, and then there would be a pajama day, a tie-dye day, or a superhero day, and encourage people to share those photos on social media, or just change up our graphics like the neon version you see here. Maybe there's a day that we're promoting specific colors so people get out and just have fun with it. Or something like Back to the Future Week, Back to Bike Months, just something to keep it fun and interesting, really provide an escape for people. You know, they're, as the other panelists mentioned, we really don't want to burden people with a message about trip replacement, but really just remind them why bicycling is fun and really great way to get outside when we're all stuck inside and feeling cooped up. We're also going to be offering challenges. I liked Anna's language around missions or adventures for people to get out, take a solo ride around their neighborhood, or maybe so that it's something we could tie to a badge that they could earn online. Maybe it's take a 3-mile solo ride, and if they log 3 miles, they would earn that badge. Or a grocery grab, a central trip to the pharmacy or the store, things like that, that still focus on riding alone, but give folks some kind of challenge to engage with. And we're also creating new social media graphics that might highlight bike safety or maintenance. A lot of those messages that Thomas and Anna were sharing, I think I would be lying if I didn't say I'm not going to go steal some of that language. I mean, Thomas invited me to do so. So we definitely want to be doing that kind of messaging around, here's what you could be doing now to adapt your rides and trips. And then we're also going to be creating games for people to play on their own or with their families, scavenger hunts or bike bingo, just something, again, fun for them to engage with. So ultimately, we want to remind people that this is a great way to relieve some stress. Some people are finding themselves with more time on their hands than ever, while others, like myself, have 2 kids and trying to work from home. And so I may not want to engage with a challenge every day, but so we're trying to find a balance with all of that, but just really keep it light and fun for folks. And before I close, I just wanted to comment that some of the changes that we made to align with physical distancing were much easier by this decentralized campaign that we have built over the last many years. We've created a free website, maysbikemonth.com, that's open, where anyone in the region, from a 1st grade teacher to a individual employee at a small or large business or a community-based organization, can all plug in and be part of that campaign and participate. And it has just been actually a little bit seamless in that way, where we're just amping up some of those tools that we were already using. And in closing, I just want to reiterate that while the campaign's roots are in reducing bicycle trips, that we really want to focus on rolling out a program that complies with public health guidance. So we hope this will get some folks interested in bicycling who may not have been before, and it could ultimately help us improve the multimodal transition to people returning to the workplace. And with that, I will turn it over to Casey to lead us through some Q&A.
Thank you, Sabrina. Yeah, if you want to just leave that last slide up there,
Sure.
Yeah, we'll leave that up there for folks. In case we don't get through all the questions today, you'll have everyone's contact information there. I really appreciate your talk there, Sabrina. I love those badges. That was one of the things that I loved when you had mentioned that before, things that you guys are working on, specifically those for folks who are at home. You know, some people don't even have bikes, and we've talked about getting some riders who are less experienced on bikes. And it was really kind of cool even to get people who have stationary bikes. You know, Peloton is a big thing now too as well, to get involved and be in the action. And so kind of another angle to try to get more folks involved. So very nice. Thank you very much. We do have some questions. And again, I'll just remind folks to please type in your questions as we go here. We're going to try to get as many answered as we can. But if we can't, again, everyone's contact information is up for you to reach out to them after. I'm going to start here with Anna. Anna, this is a 2-part question. Uh, First, the roads might be safer now with decreased cars, but once we return with an anticipated less transit ridership, more driving due to social distancing concerns, how would you suggest we encourage the less experienced bikers to commute to work? And then that said, do you have any incentives you recommend to encourage biking to work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our goal right now is to get those people who are less experienced to be more experienced while it's like kind of a safer kid gloves type of environment. So the hope is that they'll start riding now, they'll see that they can do it, they'll build that confidence. And then once there are more cars on the road, when we're back at work and we're phased back, they'll actually be better. The other hope is that some of this temporary biking infrastructure becomes permanent. So definitely reach out to your local governments or your bicycle coalitions and see what you can do about maintaining that. I think a lot of that will actually stick around, hopefully. I mean, maybe wishful thinking, but so that's one way, or two ways. And then the other is incentives. Yeah, incentives are really a kind of a case-by-case basis. There's people are motivated by all different kinds of things. The thing that we found works the best, unfortunately, is cash. So if you want to pay people to ride right now, or even give them some kind of gift card, something that is like of value, we found that that's the best way to move the needle to get people to actually bike. There's all kinds of other incentives, you know, and we have I have a resource on my deck that you can check out related to incentives. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Thomas, real quickly, I think some people had just a couple questions here about, first, your Love to Ride May Challenge. Is that open to everyone?
It's open to everyone, everywhere, and
Okay.
we're also open to any company, anywhere. So companies can go there, get a profile, set a goal.
Okay.
As a company, work towards doing it. The employees can all take part, share stories, photos. It's all open to everyone. So
Okay. And
love to try.
how is that different from your September? I know you had mentioned in your
Yeah.
challenges. How is that different from your September one?
In September, we have the same company profiles. Now they're competing against other companies, both in their area for the areas that we're working in, and then in their industry and nationally against other companies. So it's more of a competition to see which companies can get the most people riding and do the most miles and ride the most days. We have like a point system we run that puts your company further up and down the leaderboard and puts you as an individual further up and down various leaderboards as well. So it's part of this National Bike Challenge, which is a 5 months campaign that the league has been running for quite a number of years now. And they run that on the Love to Ride platform. And it starts with May Bike Month. And we used to cap it with these 2 workplace challenges. Now we've just got 1 workplace challenge, and we're doing this goal setting challenge that's open to everyone, everywhere.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Sabrina, this one's for you. A couple questions here about what platform are you using to do the challenges and pledges?
We use Ride Amigos as our website vendor, and we have worked with them to customize the May's Bike Month site from some features that we had with our last website vendor.
Excellent. Okay. I'm going to keep it here. Just another one here for you real quickly. Another question asks, how are you keeping your campaign flexible with changing public health guidelines?
How are we keeping it flexible? Well, the stationary bikes, I think, is a good example.
It is. I would have said that for sure.
We're open to any and all ideas from our outreach partners. So as far as adding new badges or things that we can post on social media. So we're really just trying to give folks a little something to engage with, but we'll continue to see how everything develops as we go through. But as of now, people are still encouraged to get outside from the local stay-at-home orders. Definitely list bicycling as something you're allowed to do. So if that were to change, then we might have to amend our campaign. But at this point, I think it's something that we can still promote generally, that bicycling something that is fun for everyone, way to get out.
I would agree there. Okay. And moving on here to Anna again. Anna, can you explain a little bit more about geocaching and an idea of the budget necessary to do something like this?
Sure. It's been a while since I have geocached, but it is a website that's fully independently maintained. And you just sign up for an account. So you can either sign up to create geocaches, which are like basically think of a little time capsule that's positioned somewhere in the environment that's accessible to the public that people can find. And then like a list of different, if you're a user seeking geocaches, you can like check out where different caches are and then go find them using like GPS mapping. It's like kind of it's a little nerdy, but it's kind of a fun adventure, and it doesn't cost anything. It's entirely free. So you can check out geocaches in your region and maybe, you know, promote that with like biking to the geocache.
Okay, great. This next one, I might gear it a little more towards Anna and Thomas, but Sabrina, if you have any advice, you can feel free to jump in as well. This question, how should we promote bike share programs? The largest bike share operator in Virginia says they disinfect bikes at least once every 30 days, potentially after many users, and they don't encourage users to wear gloves. We have concerns about promoting something that customers may be concerned about, the cleanliness of bikes in today's world, especially as people go back to work. Any advice or anything you would add to that?
Go ahead, Thomas.
I was just going to say, I mean, I would default to someone in public health. I mean, I'm not sure I feel qualified enough to answer that question at this time. And there's still some things that are unknown about the virus, but how long it can stay on different places. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got any guidance from anyone locally on that at the moment, Anna.
No, I think you have to kind of like case by case, like check out your local guidelines. I know that different bike share operators are doing different things. In the Bay Area, I think they've beefed up their cleaning and disinfecting of the bike share here. But I would also, I don't know if I would totally encourage it as an option, but I wouldn't discourage it either. I think it's kind of like a personal decision. You can always recommend that people wear gloves if they're doing bike share. And I have seen some articles on how to safely use bike share during COVID. I'd have to go check my my resources, but.
Okay. Yeah, if you find that and you see that, feel free to pass it along. We can share with others as well for that.
I would just say on that, like, there's not much difference of going to the supermarket, and I don't know about you all, but I'm wiping the trolley down. You call it a trolley? You call it a cart, I think.
Shopping cart.
Yeah, wiping the shopping cart down, and you could probably do the same thing. I have thought about that with bikes. You just, you know, take your little wet wipe out and whatever and disinfect the bike. And I think if that's what you were saying, and then obviously follow the standard practices of disinfecting your hands with some spray or washing your hands when you get home.
Yeah.
Yeah, the National American Bike Share Association recently hosted a webinar on what some systems are doing during this pandemic, and the speakers there that they featured, those systems that are still up and running have definitely ramped up their cleaning. So I would agree that it's sort of a case by case, and you would want to work with whoever your local operator is to find out what it is they're doing and how you might be able to get that education out. Like Thomas mentioned, yeah, even if the bike share company's doing it, it's still good practice that you'd probably want to wipe the bike down too yourself.
Absolutely would agree there. And thank you guys for answering as best you can. I'll finish with this last one here. Sabrina, I don't want you to give out all your secrets here, but a lot of folks really like that bingo idea that you showed there towards the end. Did you create that, or is there a resource online that you can share with others if they're looking to create something similar for their bike programs?
I did not personally create it, but I can check with my team on what we did there. I think that we had consultants or partners who helped us with it, but certainly could follow up with the group. And we are more than happy to share everything that we're using. Actually, if you go to maysbikemonth.com, we have our e-toolkit posted under the resources section that has some draft emails and social media posts and graphics, and anyone is welcome to use those.
That's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's wonderful. I want to just take a moment here as we hit the top of the hour. I want to thank our panelists today. Very informative, have received a lot of great feedback, and people are really appreciating all the tips that you guys have shared today. So thank you to our panelists. I want to thank all attendees for joining us today for a wonderful turnout for this webinar. We thank you all again. Feel free to reach out to any of our panelists here if you have additional questions. And as I mentioned, this session has been recorded and we will have it up on the ACT website by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. So thank you all again. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Thomas, Sabrina, and Anna for a wonderful presentation. And we'll see you next month for our May webinar. Thank you all. Have a great
Thank
afternoon.
you.
Thanks, y'all.